Life is not meant to be lived in fear, in doubt, or in the shadow of emotions that weaken us. Yet, most people spend their lives trapped, controlled by the opinions of others, shaken by setbacks and enslaved by their own undisciplined minds. They react instead of respond. They break under pressure instead of standing firm. They seek comfort instead of seeking growth. But there is another way, a way of strength, a way of resilience, a way of rising above everything that seeks to pull you down. Strength is not found in the body, nor is it found in wealth, status, or external validation. True strength begins in the mind. The person who does not control their thoughts will be controlled by everything around them, by circumstances, by emotions, by the expectations of others. They will live reactively, shifting like a leaf in the wind, never truly standing firm. But the person who masters their own mind, who learns to command their thoughts, gains a power that cannot be taken away. It is this mastery that separates those who falter from those who rise. Most people are prisoners of their own minds. They live in fear of what others think, constantly seeking approval. They allow doubt to creep in, convincing them they are not good enough. They let small failures define them, interpreting temporary setbacks as permanent defeat. Their minds are a battlefield, but instead of fighting for control, they surrender to every passing thought, every fleeting emotion, every external pressure. They wonder why they feel powerless, yet they never question the fact that they have given up control over their most powerful weapon, their own mind. A disciplined mind does not fall victim to every passing thought. It does not allow fear to dictate action. It does not let insecurity cloud judgment. It observes, it analyzes, and it responds with wisdom, not impulse. This is the first step to strength, to recognize that thoughts are not reality. A thought may arise, I am not good enough, I will fail, I am not strong enough. But it is just that, a thought. It only has power if it is believed. The weak believe every thought that enters their mind. The strong question them. They challenge their thoughts. They ask, is this true? More often than not, they find that their fears are illusions, their doubts are lies, and their insecurities are chains they have placed on themselves. And once they realize this, they break free. The mind must be trained like a muscle. No one becomes strong overnight. Just as the body requires discipline to grow stronger, so does the mind. It must be tested, challenged, and pushed beyond its comfort zone. This means embracing discomfort. It means doing the hard thing even when every thought says to quit. It means facing fears head-on instead of running from them. Most people avoid hardship because they believe it will break them. But in avoiding hardship, they only make themselves weaker. The mind grows stronger not through ease, but through struggle. Every challenge overcome, every fear faced, every disciplined action taken, these are the weights that strengthen the mind. There will be moments of doubt. There will be times when the mind tries to return to old habits, to seek comfort, to retreat into weakness. But a strong mind does not negotiate with itself. It does not allow temporary emotions to dictate permanent decisions. It recognizes that feelings are fleeting, but discipline is lasting. And so when a difficult choice arises, when fear whispers to quit, when the urge to seek comfort becomes overwhelming, a trained mind does not yield. It stands firm. It chooses discipline over ease, wisdom over impulse, resilience over surrender. This is why mastering the mind is the foundation of all strength. Without it, nothing else matters. A person may have talent, but if their mind is weak, they will waste it. A person may have ambition, but if their mind is undisciplined, they will never follow through. A person may have opportunities, but if their mind is controlled by fear, they will never take them. Everything begins in the mind. The person who understands this and commits to training their thoughts, controlling their emotions, and disciplining their actions will rise above all challenges. They will not be controlled by external forces. They will not be shaken by setbacks. They will not be ruled by fear. Instead, they will stand firm, unshakable, and in control of their own destiny. The world belongs to those who master themselves, and self-mastery begins with mastering the mind. Once this is learned, there is no limit to how far one can rise. Most people suffer not because of what happens to them, but because of their attachment to things they cannot control. They believe that if they can just force life to go a certain way, if they can just hold on tightly enough, they will be safe from pain, disappointment, or failure. But this is an illusion. Control over the external world is fleeting at best, and the tighter one tries to hold on, the more suffering they create for themselves. The mind that is constantly grasping, constantly fearing loss, is a mind that will never know peace. True strength lies not in controlling the world, but in controlling one's response to it. Detachment is not a weakness, it is the highest form of freedom. People misunderstand detachment. They believe it means not caring, being indifferent, or refusing to engage with life. But the truth is quite the opposite. Detachment does not mean not feeling, it means not being ruled by what one feels. It does not mean withdrawing from life, it means engaging with it fully, but without being enslaved by outcomes. It is the difference between walking through a storm with a calm mind and allowing the storm to dictate one's emotions. The detached person still experiences joy, love, and ambition, but they do not cling to them. They understand that everything in life is temporary. Success, failure, praise, criticism, relationships, and even life itself. And because they accept this, they do not live in fear of losing what they have. The greatest source of suffering comes from attachment to things beyond control. People attach themselves to relationships, believing that another person must behave a certain way for them to be happy. They attach themselves to success, believing that if they fail, they are worthless. They attach themselves to the opinions of others, allowing praise to inflate their ego and criticism to destroy their confidence. But all of these things are fragile. A relationship can end, success can turn into failure, and opinions can change overnight. To base one's peace on something that is constantly shifting is to guarantee suffering. The person who practices detachment understands that the only thing they truly own is their own mind, their own actions, and their own choices. They still work hard, they still build relationships, they still strive for greatness, but they do so with the understanding that nothing is permanent. They do not seek to control others because they know they cannot. They do not fear failure because they see it as part of life. They do not depend on approval because their sense of worth is internal. When something is lost, they do not break, they simply adapt. They do not waste time wishing things were different. They accept reality as it is and move forward with strength. This kind of detachment is not easy. It requires training the mind to let go of expectations, to stop resisting what is, and to focus only on what is within control. It means recognizing when attachment is causing suffering and having the discipline to release it. It means stepping back from emotions and asking, is this within my control? If the answer is no, then the only rational response is to let go. There is no point in clinging to what cannot be changed. The person who masters this truth walks through life with a kind of calm that others cannot understand. They do not overreact to problems, they do not waste energy on what is outside their power, and they do not fear the future. Many believe that detachment will make them weak, that without attachment they will lose motivation, ambition, or the ability to love deeply. But this is another illusion. The strongest people in history have been those who were detached from outcomes. They pursued their goals with passion, but they did not allow failure to define them. They loved deeply, but they did not become dependent on another for their happiness. They faced criticism, but they did not let it shake their confidence. They understood that life is unpredictable, and they trained their minds to remain steady no matter what happened. Detachment is power. It does not mean not caring. It means caring without fear. It does not mean giving up. It means striving without being broken by setbacks. It does not mean being emotionless. It means feeling everything fully, but choosing not to be controlled by it. The person who learns this truth will never be shaken by the ups and downs of life. They will be like a rock in the storm, untouched, unbothered, and completely in control of themselves. Pain is an unavoidable part of life, yet most people spend their entire existence trying to avoid it. They fear discomfort, they run from challenges, and they resist anything that causes them distress. But in doing so, they deny themselves one of the greatest gifts life has to offer: growth. Pain is not an enemy, it is a teacher. Every hardship, every failure, every betrayal carries a lesson. The question is not whether pain will come, but how one will respond to it. The weak allow pain to break them, while the strong use it to become better, wiser, and more resilient. The mind that has not been tested remains weak. A person who has never struggled, never failed, never faced rejection or adversity is like a blade that has never been sharpened. They may appear fine on the surface, but when faced with real difficulty, they shatter. Strength is forged in fire, and pain is that fire. The more one resists it, the longer they remain fragile. The more one embraces it, the stronger they become. Pain strips away illusions. It exposes weaknesses that need to be addressed. It forces growth in ways that comfort never could. The greatest mistake one can make is seeing pain as something to be feared rather than as something to be mastered. Most people react to pain emotionally. They complain about how unfair life is. They blame others. They sink into self-pity. But none of this changes the situation. Pain does not respond to complaints. It only responds to strength. A person can either let pain consume them, or they can choose to rise above it. The first step is shifting perspective. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" one should ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of saying, "This is unfair," one should say, "This is an opportunity to become stronger." Pain loses its power the moment it is no longer seen as suffering, but as training. The strongest people in history did not become great despite their hardships. They became great because of them. Every failure, every rejection, every moment of suffering shaped them into the person they were meant to be. They understood that avoiding pain was not the path to strength. Instead, they leaned into it, using it as fuel. A person who fears pain will never achieve greatness, because they will always choose the easier path. But the one who embraces it will find that on the other side of suffering lies transformation. Pain is temporary, but the lessons it teaches are permanent. A person who has suffered deeply but has learned from it walks through life differently. They are not easily shaken, not easily offended, not easily discouraged. They have seen the worst and survived it. They have been broken and put themselves back together, stronger than before. They understand that no pain lasts forever, but the wisdom gained from it does. When another challenge arises, they do not fear it. They face it with confidence, knowing they have endured worse and will endure again. There is a choice to be made with every painful experience. One can either become bitter or better. One can either use pain as an excuse to give up or as motivation to push forward. The weak blame their pain for their failures. The strong use their pain as fuel for their success. The only difference between the two is perspective. The person who understands that pain is part of the journey does not resist it. They accept it, learn from it, and keep moving forward. The greatest victories in life are reserved for those who have suffered, endured, and risen stronger. The person who avoids pain may live comfortably, but they will never know what they are truly capable of. The person who faces pain head-on, who refuses to let it define them, will grow into something unstoppable. This is the truth that most people refuse to accept. Comfort is the enemy of growth, and pain is the path to strength. It is only when one stops running from suffering and starts using it as a tool for transformation that they unlock their true potential. Pain will come, but what one does with it will determine everything. Emotions are a natural part of being human, but they should never be the master of one's actions. Most people live at the mercy of their emotions, allowing anger, fear, sadness, and excitement to dictate their choices. They react impulsively, without control, like a boat tossed in a storm, never truly in command of their direction. They believe that just because they feel something strongly, it must be true, and they let their emotions steer them into regret, weakness, and failure. But emotions are not meant to be obeyed blindly. They are meant to be observed, understood, and managed with reason. The person who learns to master their emotions masters themselves, and the person who masters themselves becomes unshakable. The undisciplined mind gives power to every emotion that arises. If anger flares up, it leads to reckless words and actions that cause harm. If fear appears, it paralyzes progress and keeps a person stuck. If sadness takes hold, it drains motivation and clouds judgment. People make promises in moments of excitement and break them in moments of despair. They lash out when frustrated only to regret it later. They avoid difficult decisions because of discomfort, only to suffer greater consequences in the future. Living like this is a form of slavery, enslaved to whatever feeling happens to be strongest at any given moment. True strength is found in breaking free from this cycle and reclaiming control over one's mind. Observing emotions without obeying them is a skill that must be trained. It begins with awareness, recognizing when an emotion arises and understanding that it is just that, an emotion, not an absolute truth. Most people react without questioning what they feel. They assume that because they are afraid, there must be something to fear. Because they are angry, there must be a reason to attack. Because they are sad, there must be no hope. But emotions are unreliable. They shift like the wind, influenced by countless factors. Hunger, fatigue, environment, past experiences, and even the words of others. To base actions on something so unstable is to build a life on a foundation of sand. When an emotion arises, instead of immediately acting on it, one must pause and examine it. What is this feeling telling me? Is it based on reality or assumption? Is it helpful or destructive? Does it serve my goals or sabotage them? This simple act of questioning creates space between feeling and action, allowing reason to take the lead. The person who can do this gains an advantage over those who react impulsively. They do not speak words they will regret. They do not make decisions based on temporary emotions. They do not let fear hold them back from doing what must be done. This does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending they do not exist. Emotions have a purpose. They provide information. They signal when something needs attention. They add depth to life. But they are not always correct, and they are not always beneficial. The key is to acknowledge them without being ruled by them. To feel fear but act with courage. To feel anger but respond with wisdom. To feel sadness but continue moving forward. This is what separates the strong from the weak. The ability to feel everything deeply, yet remain in control. Many believe that being emotional is a sign of authenticity, that reacting based on feelings is being true to oneself. But this is a misunderstanding. Authenticity is not being controlled by emotions. It is knowing oneself deeply enough to rise above them. The strongest individuals in history were not those who followed their emotions wherever they led, but those who remained steady in the face of them. They did not allow fear to stop them from taking action. They did not allow anger to cloud their judgment. They did not allow despair to make them give up. They felt everything, but they remained unmoved in their mission. Imagine a warrior in battle. If they allow fear to overtake them, they hesitate and are defeated. If they allow rage to blind them, they make reckless mistakes. If they allow despair to consume them, they surrender. But the disciplined warrior does not give in to any of these emotions. They acknowledge their presence, but do not let them dictate their actions. They remain focused, strategic, and controlled, and because of this, they emerge victorious. Life is no different. Every day presents battles, challenges, setbacks, conflicts, and temptations. The person who can observe their emotions without being controlled by them wins these battles. The person who cannot remains a victim of their own mind. Mastering emotions is not about eliminating them, it is about knowing when to trust them and when to let them pass. It is about recognizing that adversity is not something to be feared or avoided. It is something to be embraced and understood. Every person who has ever achieved anything great has faced obstacles, setbacks, and moments where everything seemed against them. But the difference between those who rise and those who fall is how they perceive these challenges. To the weak, adversity is a sign to quit. To the strong, adversity is proof that they are on the path of growth. No one develops resilience in ease and comfort. Strength, wisdom, and true confidence are only built through struggle. The very thing that most people run from is the thing that has the power to transform them into who they are meant to be. The natural reaction to adversity is frustration. It is easy to believe that life is unfair, that hardships are personal attacks, that setbacks are punishments. But this mindset only weakens a person. The truth is that adversity is neither good nor bad. It simply is. How one chooses to respond to it determines everything. A person who complains about their difficulties wastes energy that could be used to overcome them. A person who resists reality only adds to their own suffering, but the one who looks at adversity as a necessary part of the journey will always rise above it. They do not see problems as obstacles, but as stepping stones to something greater. Most people avoid difficulty because they believe it will break them. But difficulty does not break a person. Resistance to difficulty does. Struggling against reality, wishing things were easier, and seeking shortcuts only make a person weaker. The strongest individuals in history were not the ones who had the easiest lives. They were the ones who faced the greatest hardships and refused to let those hardships define them. They did not ask for an easier path. This is the mindset that separates those who thrive from those who merely survive. There is a simple truth that many fail to accept. The harder the challenge, the greater the growth. A person who lifts light weights will never become strong. A person who avoids discomfort will never develop discipline. A person who never experiences failure will never understand perseverance. Growth requires struggle. Every great achievement requires sacrifice. The person who truly wants to succeed must be willing to endure what others will not. This is why adversity is not an enemy but a teacher. It shows a person their limits and forces them to push beyond them. It reveals weaknesses so they can be strengthened. It strips away illusions and leaves only the truth of what a person is made of. The difference between those who succeed and those who fail is not talent, intelligence, or luck. It is the ability to face hardship without breaking. Life will test everyone. The question is not whether challenges will come, but how one will respond to them. The weak see adversity as a reason to stop. The strong see it as a reason to push harder. Every setback carries the seed of an even greater comeback. Every failure is an opportunity to learn and improve. Every difficult moment is a chance to prove to oneself that they are stronger than they believed. One of the greatest mistakes a person can make is wishing for an easy life. An easy life creates a weak person. A difficult life creates strength. The most resilient people are not the ones who had everything handed to them. They are the ones who were forced to fight for what they wanted. They did not have the luxury of comfort, and because of that they became unstoppable. They learned that pain is temporary, but the lessons it teaches are permanent. They discovered that every hardship is a gift because it shapes them into something greater. Adversity will come. There is no avoiding it, but a person has a choice to allow it to defeat them or to use it as fuel. Complaining about difficulties does nothing. Running from them only ensures that they will return in another form. The only way to conquer adversity is to face it with courage, to see it as an opportunity rather than an obstacle, to let it refine. The person who masters this mindset becomes unstoppable. They do not fear hardship because they understand its purpose. They do not break under pressure because they have been strengthened by it. They do not wish for an easier life because they know that true greatness is only forged in the fire of struggle. Discipline is the foundation of all success. Without discipline, talent is wasted, intelligence is useless, and ambition remains just a dream. Most people fail not because they lack ability, but because they lack the discipline to apply themselves consistently. They wait for motivation, they seek shortcuts, and they hope that success will come easily. But true achievement is not built on fleeting moments of inspiration. It is built on daily habits, on unwavering commitment, on the ability to do what must be done, even when one does not feel like doing it. The disciplined person understands that emotions are unreliable. They do not depend on feelings to determine their actions. They do not wait to feel ready before taking action, because they know that readiness is a myth. Success does not belong to those who act when they feel like it. It belongs to those who act regardless of how they feel. Discipline is the ability to push forward when every part of the mind is screaming to stop. It is the ability to rise early when the body craves more sleep. It is the ability to stay focused when distractions call. It is the ability to endure discomfort in pursuit of something greater. Most people do not lack goals, they lack consistency. They start strong but fade when the excitement wears off. They set resolutions but abandon them at the first sign of difficulty. They let their emotions dictate their discipline. But the person who truly understands the power of discipline does not waver. They do not allow temporary discomfort to derail long-term progress. They do not negotiate with excuses. They do not give themselves permission to quit. They understand that discipline is not something that one has. It is something that one builds through repetition, through effort, through an unbreakable commitment to action. There is a simple truth. Discipline is freedom. To the undisciplined, this sounds like a contradiction. They believe that discipline is restrictive, that it limits enjoyment, that it makes life harder. But in reality, the opposite is true. The person who lacks discipline is a slave to procrastination, to bad habits, to impulses, to regret. They live with chaos, with stress, with missed opportunity. They want results, but refuse to put in the consistent effort required to achieve them. They chase comfort, and in doing so make their lives more difficult. But the disciplined person is free. Free from the regret of wasted time, free from the stress of unfinished goals, free from the burden of constantly starting over. Every great achievement is built on discipline. The best athletes do not train only when they feel like it. The best leaders do not work hard only when it is convenient. The best minds do not seek knowledge only when they are in the mood to learn. They commit fully. They build habits that serve them, and they do not break them. They understand that the path to mastery is paved with small, daily choices. The difference between success and failure is often nothing more than the willingness to stay disciplined when others give up. Discipline is not about punishment, it is about training. The disciplined person does not see hard work as suffering, they see it as preparation. They do not see challenges as burdens, they see them as tests. They understand that each time they choose discipline over comfort, they grow stronger. Each time they push past excuses, they build mental toughness. Each time they act despite not feeling like it, they move closer to their goals. This is how discipline is forged, not in grand moments, but in small decisions made every single day. Most people dream of success but refuse to embrace the discipline required to achieve it. They want the rewards without the work. They want to be fit without committing to exercise. They want to be wealthy without learning financial discipline. They want respect without putting in the effort to earn it. But the world does not reward wishes. It rewards discipline. The person who embraces discipline becomes unstoppable because they do not rely on external forces to keep them moving. They are not controlled by moods, by circumstances, by distractions. They are driven by something deeper, a commitment to themselves, to their goals, to the life they want to create. The truth is harsh but simple. Either one chooses discipline or one chooses regret. There is no in-between. Every day, every decision, every action is either moving one closer to their potential or further away from it. The undisciplined life is full of missed opportunities, unfulfilled potential, and the constant feeling of what if. But the disciplined life is a life of purpose, of achievement, of self-respect. It is the life of the person who understands that success is not about luck, not about talent, not about waiting for the right moment. It is about showing up every day and doing what needs to be done, no matter what.